welcome to another episode of Undercooled. Tim and I are really lucky this week because we have Professor Tresa Pollock from University of California at Santa Barbara. And of course, Tresa used to be here and she left, but we still love her. And she is here this week because she is the Van Vleck Lecturer. This is the highest award that our department gives to a top material scientist who's made significant contributions to the field in material science. And boy, does Tresa fit the bill perfectly. She's one of the leaders in developing high temperature alloys, single crystal growth of alloys. And now she's working on 3D printing of metals. Fascinating work that we got to hear about. So we are here in the Van Vleck lab. This is the Van Vleck undergraduate lab. And what's kind of neat is Tresa met Larry when he was still alive, and I met Larry when he was still alive. Yes. Larry was that's how I learned how to teach, because I was a GSI for Larry's course, where he taught me how to use a nomograph to give grades, which I don't do anymore. And he also had this amazing billboard by his office that he had clipped out every misspelling ever of his name in print. And there were hundreds of them on the board, and it was just really funny. So anyway, Tresa, when she was here in Ann Arbor, we built this undergraduate lab during the time that she was here. And Tresa took it upon herself to build a shrine to Larry outside of this lab, and even donated, I think, some of your books that are still there. So I'll see if I can get some B-roll to put on the YouTube version of that. So, it's still there. Students love looking at it. And so anyway, I will shut up, and I'll let Tim ask Tresa the first question.
Sure. Well, we just heard the answer. The question is, who is Dr. Tresa Pollock? But the answer is the creator of the Van Vleck Shrine in the hallway. And what else could we need to know? But it would be great if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself for a few minutes, and especially, how did you get into the field of material science in the first place? We love to hear these origin stories.
Okay. And in fact, the graduate students just asked me that question a couple of hours ago over lunch. And one of them had cleverly noted that I said in a lecture that I gave at Purdue a couple of years ago that I am a first-generation college student. And so the question was, how does a first-generation college student figure out what to major in? And you have to remember, this is pre-internet, so you just don't type in, what's a material scientist do, right? So I went off to Purdue because I could afford it. I wanted to come to Michigan as an undergraduate, but even way back then, it was really expensive. So I went off to Purdue, and I made an appointment with every undergraduate advisor in the college, and I went to them, and I said, if I get a degree in X, what would I do when I graduate? Because I don't know. And the most interesting answer came from the materials person, so I majored in materials.
Wow. Awesome. Doing actual legwork and investigation to make informed decisions.
Yes, a researcher right from the beginning. Absolutely.
Yes, but now you just type in the internet, what's an engineer do?
Sure.
You probably get a fake answer, but
Well, the Purdue, Michigan story is extra funny because I lived the opposite. My dad went to Purdue, and so he tried to get me to go to Purdue, but I went to Michigan.
Yeah, go Big Ten.
That's right.
But you didn't go to Ohio State, and you were from Ohio.
Springfield, Ohio. Yes,
famous.
Very famous place now.
Yes.
That was where everybody else was going.
I do understand that. Both of my girls refused to stay in the state of Michigan because they didn't want to hang out with their high school friends.
As did my daughter and son also.
Yeah.
And my son wanted to make absolutely sure that there would be no one around that knew me, so he went to the Deep South.
That's awesome. So you met Larry?
Yes.
Tell us that story.
I met Larry at a workshop that was held here at Michigan right after, what year was that? Do you
That
remember?
was like in 1990, I think, 89 or
That-
90.
Maybe 91. It
Maybe
was after
91.
I got to Carnegie Mellon,
Could've-
shortly after.
Yeah, it was because I remember that's when I first met you.
That's right. And so he was having a workshop on teaching introductory material science.
Right.
And so he had invited all these people who had written textbooks. His was clearly the best. And at that moment, I was actually teaching with his textbook because at Carnegie Mellon, we had made a major renovation of the undergraduate curriculum. And we introduced, every department had a freshman course that was a real 4-unit freshman course. And the idea was that students would get a real introduction to each one of the engineering fields, and then they could make an informed pick about their major. So I was very excited because I thought, oh, this is our big chance to increase materials enrollment. So I made up this freshman class and put a lot of effort into it. And so I felt like I was at least recognized for the effort going in by somebody, by the famous Larry Van Vleck. So I was thrilled to be invited, and I was surprised at what a calm, thoughtful, gentle personality he was.
Yes, he was.
Wonderful
And,
guy.
you know, that's the first time I ever saw you was when you gave your talk. And that had a huge lasting impact on my career as an educator because you were using computers to build modules to help students understand things. And I started doing that right away. Not quite as neat as what you were doing, but I used other tricks. So we built, clickers, hardwired
yes, you did a
clickers
lot
and
of
all
those
that.
things.
But it was really because you sort of inspired me because I don't think many of the other speakers at that talked about using technology in teaching.
I
You
think
were one of the
we
few.
were a few of the younger people there, if I remember right.
Right, I think you're right. I think Wayne had a lot to do with organizing that
Yes,
meeting
yes,
as well.
I think he did do a lot
But
of work.
that was a cool meeting, and I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
So, anyway, you went from Carnegie Mellon, which I should also mention that's where Engine 100 at Michigan came from, because we got your dean. Right?
Yes,
You have some
correct.
funny stories about the dean and paying for your gear, right?
Yes. Steve Director was my dean at Carnegie Mellon and then my dean at Michigan. And so, in fact, my dean at Santa Barbara was an electrical engineer, and then the current dean at Santa Barbara is an electrical engineer. So, except for the 2 years when I worked for myself as dean, I've only worked for electrical engineers as a dean.
And you got all of them to buy equipment for you.
Yes.
Amazing.
Everybody.
is
So this is
great.
what came out of the Carnegie Mellon experience, though. All of this, we convinced approximately half of the undergraduate class every year to take the course on materials, and we thought obviously that would increase the enrollment in the department. And it did a tiny bit, but mostly what the students said, "Oh, I'm majoring in mechanical engineering, so clearly I should take the materials course as my second course." And the electrical engineers saying, "Oh, I'm majoring in ECE, so clearly materials should be my second course." And the same for civil, and on and on. So materials are important, but people still don't major in them often enough.
Yes, it is one of our biggest problems as
Yeah,
a
we have to get the
community.
excitement out.
Right.
It's hard to do.
So we've actually had several people from ASM Education Foundation, some of the teachers, and that's a really good first step. But we took that first step, 30 years ago?
And we haven't
And
changed
we
how we're
haven't-
stepping. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're still struggling with that. We're now trying to reach out to alums of these programs. We had them come to the North American Materials Education Symposium this summer. It was probably the best talk of the entire symposium, listening to these 5 high school teachers tell us how they started materials courses in their high schools.
That's
And we
impressive.
asked them, how can we get access to your students? And they said, well, why don't you rent a bus and bring us over and show us your place? So we're going to try that.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the topic of the introductory class, which we want to believe is a recruiting tool, and as you said, it may have some small effect. thinking about the content in this course, there's a lot of canonical, this is introductory material science that has been this way since Van Vleck wrote the book. And so I'm wondering at this point, what are some topics that are in the intro course that should be revisited or renovated or replaced? Where could we freshen up the intro class to make it exciting in 2024?
Well, I mean, topics now that should probably be there should have more to do with sustainability and recycling and energy efficiency. And, the LED story is a fantastic one, right? Gallium nitride changed the world from that point of view. And so I think we need more of those kinds of stories that really convey the impact of materials. And so it doesn't seem like anyone's sat down and taken the time to rewrite the book.
No.
Is that true? I mean, I'm not teaching introductory courses anymore, but...
Well, Bill Callister owns the market, and he stopped writing a while ago. And I saw Bill. He came this summer, and he's in a bit of a dispute with Wiley, the publisher, because they're using his material for another series of books without his permission. So it's kind of ugly. And there are several other people writing books, but they're all just recast Larry books. Callister looks a lot like Larry's book.
Yes.
And so there hasn't been, there's been a few attempts. I think Charlie McMahon several years ago wrote The Walkman and the Bicycle.
Yes, I
And
remember
he tried
that.
to teach materials from a case study. And I thought that was a great idea, but it just didn't quite make it. So I don't know, but I agree with you. I think if it was more around themes of how are we going to save the world from ourselves, materials is central.
Yes, absolutely. So more of those topics, batteries, and somebody needs to sit down and write the textbook that way.
Yeah, but of course textbooks aren't used in high schools at all anymore. So students get here and they don't know how to read a textbook. So I think the kind of textbook that needs to be written now probably isn't what Larry did.
Yeah.
Probably it needs to be a web app
Yes.
or something like that that's really gets into it. And so we'll
I think
see.
you need the right list of volunteers. And if
Yeah.
it's...
I tried that. It's hard.
Yeah.
I'll revisit it again. If I ever retire, I will revisit. That's one of the things I'd like to do when I'm retired.
Okay,
is-
here's an idea. You take all of those people to Tahiti and put them on an island, and they can't leave until
Until
they
the book is
finish
done.
their chapter.
Kind of like Survivor.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Oh,
Yeah.
we could
Can't
even
leave till-
have
I
a
mean, we
podcast
can
about
all-
that.
Oh, that would be good. We can all write pretty efficiently if
Yes, we
everything
can.
else is just turned off.
That's right.
So-
And we're enjoying ourselves.
Yes. Yes, we could have arguments at night about whether or not something's worthy of a chapter.
Yes. And if you don't like it, just go write it.
That's right.
Yeah,
No,
I think a
that's-
community effort is needed at this point, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I agree, it shouldn't be a book per se.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be written by one person,
Correct.
right? I mean, it takes a village to understand all of this. Everything's teamwork. And the days of one person being an expert in everything, that kind of ended with Henry Ford.
Yeah, I mean, the materials field is a very broad field. And the evidence for that, of course, is that every department hires materials people, not just materials departments. And so,
And
yes.
this is a question from the students perennially is, what can I do in materials? Literally anything, which is the curse and the blessing of the field. It's
Correct.
so broad that you can't master it all. But that also means you can create your own path if you have a vision for where you want to go with it.
Yes, and that's
I was talking
good
to
for the creative ones.
chair of mechanical engineering today and asking who their faculty advisor was. And I was told, well, they don't have one because mechanical engineering is such a broad field. I said, materials is broader. She didn't like that answer. But I think
She
I'm right.
kind of calls herself a materials person,
I
so
know, I know.
yeah,
But
that's all
she's
right.
a good person. Hopefully,
That's all
hopefully
right.
she didn't get too mad at me. So, anyway, you've been a professor for a while now in several institutions, and you have produced lots of graduate students that are
Yes.
doing some amazing things in the world. And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about your approach to graduate student mentoring and what some of your success stories are. And you've also been incredible at inspiring women to get into the field and really perform in the field. So tell us some stories of your
Some
graduate
stories.
students.
Oh, well, I mean, for me, one of the things I get most out of my job is watching students be successful, particularly after they leave. And I always tell them that the best job they're ever going to have is graduate student, and they never believe me. But they often admit later that I was right about that. Because once you go out in the world, you have a lot more things to do. The freedom to be a graduate student,
It's a wonderful experience.
it's a wonderful thing. And so I try to make it as good as an experience as it can be. And when I'm picking students, I'm always looking for curiosity. There's no given list of things that have to be true. They don't have to have the best grades. They just need to be curious and want to do something important in materials. And so I try to watch them more closely in the beginning and give them a lot of rope as they go along. And they always think it's up to them to decide when they're finished, or up to me to decide when they're finished, but it's up to them, right? And so they figure out what's important to them, and then they write a thesis, and then they're off. And so I've sent students to academia, to national labs, to companies, lots of different kinds of companies, aerospace and Google and Apple. And so, again, that's a testament that material students, can do just about anything. That they're really, truly interested in. And so as far as females in the field, I mean, I never had any explicit goals or anything, but I always was interested in hiring a talented female PhD student, and I've had many.
Yes.
And they are out leading places like Los Alamos, and they're academics, and they're senior people at companies, and so I'm very proud of all of them. And on my last, we'll call it a 0 birthday, it was during COVID, so I was a little, bummed that I was not going to be able to do anything fun for my birthday. And about 50 of my ex-students called as a surprise Zoom.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's nice.
And we had like an hour and a half conversation with people popping up that I hadn't seen in decades.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
that was really wonderful. And that at the end, somebody made a poster of everyone that was on Zoom and sent it to me.
Oh,
and
that's
so,
great.
Yeah. So it's very, to me, it's always been very rewarding.
That's fantastic. So are there any secrets that you could tell the materials education community? Because educating graduate students is a pretty important part of our mission as materials faculty.
Do we educate more graduate students than undergraduates as a community? Nationally. Does anyone know?
I think it's probably
It's
about.
pretty
It's
close.
pretty close.
It's
Yeah.
pretty close, right?
I mean, there are these places that don't have undergraduate programs, even though they're ranked number 8 in the nation for an undergraduate program. I can't imagine where that would be or how that even happens. But that is a true statement.
Yes.
Are you
in
still
my
in the rankings? Are you
second year of being department chair at UC Santa Barbara, my undergraduate program, was it 8th we were ranked?
Yeah.
And all the other chairs congratulated me and noted duly so that we have no undergraduate program. And so there you go. That's the value of rankings. So
Yes.
I try not to pay too much attention to them.
But everybody else does.
I know students care, but they're not that important.
No, they're not.
No.
They're not all that accurate.
No.
So, but there are
I
many.
forgot the original question now.
Well,
many-
graduate education is
yeah.
such a huge part of what
Yes,
we do
that's
as
what
a
we're-
community.
And there are many programs that don't have undergraduate programs. I think like University of Delaware just started one about 5 years ago because of Dave Martin. And when I was a graduate student, there were a very small undergraduate program, and the graduate program is 4 times the size. And so I think, except for the outliers like University of Illinois, which has 300, 400, or Penn State, which have very large numbers of undergrads, the rest of us have pretty modest undergrad programs that are typically the same size as our graduate program,
Yeah.
but many are smaller. So I would bet more graduate students. But that makes sense, because only 3% of engineers graduating every year in the United States are materials engineers. And our country needs a lot more than that.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
why our undergrads all get great jobs, but we need, we bring in physicists and chemists, even mathematicians into material science.
Yes.
And,
And
so
that's the challenge. I mean, because you've got one set of people who already know a lot of things about materials, and you've got another set that might be really good at math or physics or statistical mechanics. And so the challenge at the graduate level has always been, what do you do with all of them in the first year?
That's
and I
right.
think I remember we did this here. We've done it at our place, this sort of introduction to materials at the graduate level.
That's right.
It's kind of hard to do well,
It is hard to do well.
but you still have to do it. So
Yes.
that's a little frustrating.
I
And
tried to teach that once, and it was tough.
it's hard. It's
And then
hard.
Dave Sorolovitz tried to teach it, and it became a statistical mechanics course. And then I think John Bolello taught it, and it became an X-ray diffraction course.
Yes. So,
So
therein
it's-
lies the challenge. But
Yeah.
we have added, because of the way that undergraduate programs have become so broad, we've actually added a quantum mechanics course as a first-year course for our students. And so, there's the classic structure kinetics, thermo series, but we've added quantum on top of that because,
It's important.
even people who work on metals need quantum mechanics now.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting.
Right. You have to calculate those interatomic potentials.
Yeah. Or even the whole phase diagram.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that has changed for us. The other thing that has changed for us is that over time, we finally acknowledge that no material student can know every part of the field. And so the
Right.
qualifying exam is not a broad exam of everything. And so we sort of divide, we have sort of 4 areas of the department. And so the exams are kind of a little bit closer to the area that you'll do your PhD research in.
Right.
And, we get them connections with the other stuff through other means, but trying to pretend that you're going to be as good at semiconductors as you are at additive manufacturing is maybe not realistic.
Right. And the other thing about material science, it's so interdisciplinary. You end up getting students from other departments.
Yes.
And you need those students with those backgrounds to often do the work that your lab needs.
Yes. When I was department chair, I once tried to count all of our PhD students, and more than probably 2/3 of our faculty have joint appointments in other departments. And so it was physically impossible. We had, at that time, 130 PhD students in our department, but then we had probably another 50 in other departments.
Right.
So how do you count that? I don't know.
You get a mathematician to invent a new kind of algebra to count your graduate students, because that's kind of what it takes.
Yeah, but that's a good thing, as long as nobody's, bean counting on the same metric.
Right. Right. But again, what advice would you give to our community about mentoring? Mentoring has become a much bigger thing than it used to be when
Yes.
you and I were learning how to, that no one used those words really. But now there's, mentoring conferences and mentoring programs, and it might have gone a little too far, I think. So you have the experience and you've done an amazing job. So what is your advice for how to mentor a graduate
Well,
student?
what we always tell our graduate students is that our doors are open, our collective doors are all open, and we're serious about that. And we form a committee that stays with the student throughout their whole career, and that committee really checks up on the student every year. I mean, we have a seminar series. The student will give a seminar about what they've been doing over the past year to our whole part of the department. So instructional materials, every year, every instructional materials student gives a seminar. The faculty who are mentoring them, including the primary advisor, are there. And then when the seminar is over, it's a serious discussion. Have you written any papers yet? Have you thought about what your career is going to be? How long are you really going to do all those experiments? And to have a group of people having that discussion with them, I think is so much more effective than just a single person. And so it's sort of like parenting. You need a whole community. Your
Right.
kids don't always listen to you as much as they listen to someone else.
That sounds like the experience I definitely would have needed and benefited from as a graduate student if I had had that. It was the opposite experience of trying to chase down my committee members. Someone, please read this draft of this paper. Anyone. I don't know if it's good or not. So
Yeah.
to have that as a compulsory feedback mechanism is fantastic.
Yes, and it works very well. But it does take time on our part, and we discovered that the best way to commit that time is just to commit every Friday 4 to 5 to doing this. And it takes a whole year to run through all the group of students, and the first year students, they give short little talks, and the fourth year students get serious questions. And very often they're on their way to a conference anyway, so we can.
But you said something else that I think is really important. You used the word parenting. And I think it's very important. It's true, your kids don't always listen to you. But you hope they at least trust you.
Yes.
And so I think developing, trust in an environment where they feel safe
Yes.
talking to you and
That's
feel
right.
safe making mistakes.
And
Which
they
is
feel
why-
safe asking maybe question that they think might be not a
Right.
smart question, but if it keeps you from wasting a month or harming a piece of equipment, and so you do that. But the other thing I always tell them is that you will learn as much from the students around you as you will from the faculty.
That's right.
And you can't do that unless you're talking to them and discussing things with them. And so we try very hard to make sure we never have any competition among the students. It's got to be a collaborative effort where they're helping each other. And so that makes a very big difference.
That's a great point.
A thought I just had as we're talking about the trust in the relationship is coming from the perspective of undergraduates, especially senior level undergraduates who are applying to graduate schools thinking about, I need to choose a mentor, I need to choose an advisor. And some of them have unfortunately been trained by school to have an adversarial relationship with faculty because I'm being graded, I'm being judged, they're the ones who are telling me I'm wrong. And is that something that you've experienced with new graduate students? Or is that, maybe it's different for students who have a lot of research experience as undergrads versus those who don't. But
No,
is
I
that
think
something
you're
you've
right.
seen?
There's various levels of comfort, and I think you're right also that those who have been doing research kind of better understand what the relationship should be when they get to the graduate level. And when we're admitting graduate students, we put a very high priority, and we look very closely at what they did for research as undergraduates. And it seems to us that that's an indicator of success.
Right.
Yeah, if they come only having interacted with faculty in the textbook way and taking exams,
Right.
I think you're exactly right. They think that continues. And so the other thing we try to do is tell them very clearly, you have to do some research in the first year. I mean, it doesn't have to be a lot, but you have to get yourself in that mode of this is a super important part of my education.
Right.
So.
So although you don't have an undergraduate program, there's lots of undergrads at
Oh, yes.
Santa Barbara. Do you have a lot of them working in your lab?
Oh, absolutely. We feel like because we don't have an undergraduate program, which takes a lot of faculty time, teaching all the courses that you need, that we should do our part in other ways. And so we do have an undergraduate series of 3 courses that some people just take as electives. But those 3 courses are also part of a BS-MS degree, and so they can begin work on their MS, particularly if they have a lot of AP, and then they can end up with a master's degree in materials in 5 years, total
that's great.
BS-MS.
Good.
And many of them go on to get graduate degrees in materials. So we feel, and we encourage them to leave, so we feel like we are actually sending our colleagues some graduate students. But the other thing that we do is make sure that we take a lot of students into our labs. And so, in the big departments, they just don't have enough capacity for all the students to do undergraduate research. So we take a lot of them into our labs. And
you've always done that. You did. that
I've
when
always
you were
done that,
here.
yes.
And also, I need to thank you because you helped us start the Optics in the City of Light program, which is an REU in France.
And that's
with
been going a
Gerard
long
Moreau. It's been
time
going
now.
15 years. But it started when Gerard and I wrote a proposal. We were going to bring 60 students over there. And SF said, no, you aren't. Why don't you start with 1?
And how many go each year now?
Just
a
about
few?
8.
Oh, that's
But
great.
that 1, you paid for it.
Is that right? I
You
forgot
don't
that.
remember that. You
Well, I'm sure I would have thought it was a good idea.
You gave us the money for the first student, and he
Oh.
went over and we demonstrated that we could run a international RU program. He was.
Can I go next year?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so we've been running it ever since. And then we had 6 students who went, and one of those students ended up my graduate student,
Yay.
Michael. Would be right. And,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
I run into him at Sandia now and then,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
That's right. And of course, I've sent you some of my undergrads
Mm-hmm.
who have now gotten their PhDs, and so I'm very proud of them. And but yeah, without you paying for that, because you had a lot of money, and we
Clearly,
were,
I had plenty at that moment.
yeah, and we were doing our Muri at the time.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
that was
you-
fun.
You paid for that student to go over, and then we won the award when we put it in.
Yeah.
Again, that was 2009 was our.
Is that the longest running REU?
No, no. There's a lot of others, but this
Are
is
there?
a physics REU, and people are always confused. Why am I running a physics REU? And it's very
Because
easy.
you're a physicist
Well, I'm not. I was a math major, but
in spirit.
we
yes.
love physics students for graduate students.
Yeah,
they make
absolutely.
fantastic graduate students, and that's what that was all about. And so
That's
it's
great.
been great. So thank you, Teresa, for
I'm glad it's still going.
helping us, and I'm sure Gerard would say the same if he was here.
Do send him my regards.
I
But
certainly
maybe
will.
I'll just show up next year.
Maybe you should just show up.
Yeah.
We actually have money from the dean, voluntary cost sharing, that I'm sure if you wanted to go, we could pay for that.
That's all right.
We can discuss that off the record.
Yes, that's right.
The physics connection is interesting as well because there is a certain different way of just explaining the world that is learned in physics versus in engineering, and even in material science. And when working with students, it's so interesting to me that many of them are very chemistry oriented. And so they ask me to explain something. My last chemistry class was, 24 years ago or something. And so I explain things like a physicist because that's how I think. And they say, no one's ever explained it that way before because they're doing all of the chemical thinking.
Yes.
But that is one of the things that's so wonderful about our field is we have more than one way to conceptualize the problems that we deal with.
Totally agree.
And thinking about
it's
that
what's
from-
made our field stronger. I
Absolutely.
Think, right? I mean, it sometimes it does look more like chemistry, and sometimes it does look more like mechanics, and sometimes it looks more like
Computer science.
yes.
Right?
So
Yeah.
and there's always a place for all of that in materials. So I don't know why everyone doesn't major in materials.
I don't
What
know
a
why
great
anyone.
question.
I don't know why anyone gets a degree in computer science when they could get a degree in material science.
Now be careful, you're going to
And-
get in trouble here.
I know. Half of our undergrads are in computer science. But when you come to materials and do computer science and work with like the Prisms group or with Katsuyo Thornton or Wenhao Sun, you're not only going to learn computer science, but you're going to actually learn material science. You're going to learn an engineering trade, two of them, without having to do a double degree.
Yep. Yep.
And
And-
it's really valuable.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so it's really valuable to have collaborators in those fields too, because then the students get to spend time with them. And so
Yeah.
we have some very good collaborations with computer science and ECE computer science people. And so it's
I certainly
fun.
saw that in your talks today and the day before, because a lot of simulation, and you even made the point, without the simulation, there's no way we could
There's
actually
no way.
That's right.
solve these problems.
Way too many variables in our field.
Yeah, computational material science really is a big part of the future of material science.
Absolutely. And I'm so proud of how much effort Katsuyo Thornton has put into that.
That's right.
Really, and right from the start, right, when she wrote her career grant, it was all about
Yep.
computational material science education. So
So you may not know
Michigan
this.
is on the map for this.
Tim is teaching a new course. Why don't you tell her about your course you're teaching?
Oh, we solve for eigenvalues. It's not that interesting.
For a
It is
whole course.
No, it's a math methods course for material science. It's pitched at a sophomore, junior level, but it really is intended to partly teach students how to apply mathematical tools specifically to materials problems. Most of our examples are things from structures. Like I do transformation matrices.
Yep.
We're rotating around crystal structures and doing this as linear algebra problems.
Yep.
When I'm teaching, I don't know, a couple differential equations, we're looking at vibrations of molecules. And the students seem to really appreciate this framing of, oh, it's actually useful to me.
Yes.
Which
Yes, it is.
yes, it really is. And a sticking point I find at the undergraduate level, so my question will be, do you find this with graduate students, is many of my students come in saying, I came in here to get away from programming. And so then to sort of rip off that Band-Aid and say, theory is very, very important, and you will not be solving interesting theoretical problems by hand in 2024.
No.
And there's definitely
problems are already
some
solved.
cultural resistance to, yes, you do need to do computational work to really understand what's happening under the hood. And I'd say we mostly get most of the undergrads on board with that, but what's that like in graduate education?
I feel like it's changed a lot in the last decade, because it used to be that there was be graduate students who would come in and say, I only want to do experiments. And I'm like, it's probably not going to work. And but now I see much more enthusiasm for computation and programming. And, I've actually hired some graduate students when I didn't need any, because they sat in front of me and said, I am a good programmer. And I'm like, okay.
We'll find
You're
we'll
welcome
find
to
something
join
good
my
for you to
group.
do.
So I think it's, the variability is still large, but I think I see a very positive slope
Okay.
in that regard.
And there's
So-
probably a good reason for that. We're getting, and we too like to hire students who have research experience. So wherever their institutions are, their faculty are using both computational and experimental tools. So it's become part of our culture.
Yes, it has. And the whole MGI got us there,
That's right.
and it was a lot of work, but we got there.
Yep, absolutely. So I guess we should probably think about wrapping this up. We're in about 30 minutes or so. So what do you see as the future for the next 10 years of material science? And what do you see as the challenges for educating our students to be able to deal with it?
Ooh, that's a big question. So I think I sort of said this in my talk on the first day. I mean, I think that the tools of computer science and AI and ML, they're well developed now, and and so we shouldn't miss the opportunity to leverage them. But frankly, as a field, we haven't been that good about taking care of our data and generating it in ways that make it amenable to these tools. And so I think a lot of our challenges will be sort of building more discipline about data and building more discipline about analyzing it and using it in ways that help us discover, but also help us engineer, so to speak. And so there's a lot of skills that we're all going to have to learn, but that's okay. We had to learn skills all along the last few decades. And so I think it just makes the field exciting and ever-changing. And so I think that's good. In education, it's always the challenge to keep up, right? We're always adding. Material science is terrible about this, right? We're always adding something new to our agenda.
Yeah.
And
Guilty.
right, and so how do we keep adding new things without losing our core?
Right.
And I think we have to keep our core. And so I think, there have to be new, quicker ways of gaining some of these skills, summer schools and, just non-traditional ways of putting more into our education. I don't see any other choice. Yes. So it's going to be fun.
So any last words, anything you want to pitch, any big initiatives going on at Santa Barbara you want to talk about?
Oh, well, this is not a commercial, so I don't want to pitch anything other than I am very optimistic about the future of the field and the kinds of students certainly that are coming to graduate education. And so I think we're in great shape. We're still not as well known as we should be, but maybe someday we'll figure that out. But it's all good, and it's fantastic to see the Van Vleck Lab at 4:30 on what day is it? Friday.
Friday.
Yeah,
And there are students in here working.
yes.
And so it's not because somebody told them they had to be here. And so what a wonderful thing that Larry created here and that you and the faculty here at Michigan have supported and took to a very high level. So congratulations.
Well,
Thank you very much. We'll do our best to continue to be good custodians of this space and to make sure that students keep using it to learn for hopefully many years to come.
Thank
all right.
you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you all for listening.
Yep.
Goodbye.
We'll see you
Bye.
next time on the next episode of Undercooled.